Hello and welcome to another episode on our series of India's military campaigns after India's independence to mark 75 years of India's independence. And here I shall tell you on the importance of the Siachen Glacier, which is the world's coldest, highest and the fiercest battlefield to fight a conflict in because of the enormous pressure on the human body due to weather conditions. The Siachin Glacier is today very much under India's control, though Pakistanis and their generals love to believe and mislead their people into believing that Pakistan has got onto the Siachin Glacier, and in fact they have made their base camp in adjoining glaciers along the Saltoro Ridge like bilateral and others, where Pakistan and their reporters convey to their people that they are on the Siachin Glacier. There is nobody but the Indian soldier on the Siachin Glacier. And this is an important reality which unfortunately India's bureaucracy and our diplomats and our military commanders have been hesitant to push down the throat of the Pakistani generals and their public and the international observers, assuming that they will only inflame Pakistan's humiliation further and would lead to an escalation of conflict. But any escalation of matters military along the Siachin Glacier is something that Indian troops are well placed to deal with. I remember asking General Musharraf, who himself, as a brigade commander in 1987 or thereabouts, had tried very hard to dislodge Indian troops after they had occupied all the important positions along the Saltoro Ridge, which is the wall that keeps the Siachin Glacier very much in India's part. And I told him that you and other generals have been pushing to go back to the pre-1983 positions on the Siachin Glacier, but the Indian military is reluctant because unless there are internationally bound ironclad guarantees that Pakistan will not exploit any peace agreement and withdrawal over the Siachin Glacier, Pakistan cannot be trusted. And his immediate response was that, well, those realities then we haven't looked at seriously, so I can't give you an answer and words to that effect. Essentially meaning that Pakistan is still desperate to take control over the Siachin Glacier. There is a need to understand the geographical layout of the area. On one side of the Siachin Glacier lies the Pakistani occupied Kashmir or the northern areas of Gilgit-Baltistan, heavily glaciated. There is the Shaksgam Valley, which is about 1500 plus square miles that Pakistan has given to China in 1963, and China is not willing to return it to either Pakistan or India because Shaksgam Valley has the largest number of glaciers in the world, 242. China intends to exploit those glaciers for water and make more water out of it, just as it is doing with damming the major rivers of the Indus system that go into the northern areas and are essentially, as part of the Indus Waters Treaty of September 1960, part of Pakistan's lot, and India really doesn't have a say to interfere in what Pakistan does with it. Pakistan's given China the right to dam those rivers. China has spent $26 billion damming those rivers. What lies between Pakistan's hold of POK and northern areas, the Shaksgam Valley, and the Karakoram ranges going on to Aksai Chin on this side, is the wedge called the Siachin Glacier. If Pakistan and China take control of it, they will meet their forces on the glacier and thereabouts and dominate the entire Ladakh plains with their ability to hit and attack Leh Ladakh at their convenience. Indian troops have achieved some remarkable military objectives there. One is the control of the Saltoro Ridge. Two is the entire fortification of the Leh Ladakh area in the Ladakh plains. Three is what we call the LAC along Siachin. And remember, whatever areas with Pakistan and China in terms of strategic advantages they enjoy, from the Karakoram ranges right to the Siachin which China holds, were areas that these people had taken control of before Pandit Nehru's government admitted to the Indian public in 1957-58 that yes, the Chinese are in Siachin. China wants to move up from Siachin, come to the Depsang plains where Indian troops near Ladakh are holding them off, because when they get past that, they can start marrying up with the region of the northern areas of Gilgit-Baltistan, which until 1984 Pakistan had not even mentioned in the Atlas of Pakistan as Pakistani territory. Today they're thinking of making that entire region as a province of Pakistan, and India is obviously in conflict with Pakistan about who owns this territory, because essentially as per the agreement of partition that all the principalities that would join the Indian Union, all their territories would come to India, and likewise those that joined Pakistan, their territories would go into Pakistan. So northern parts of the kingdom of Jammu and Kashmir had Gilgit-Baltistan, then the Kashmir Valley. South of that lay the Jammu region. There was the Azad Kashmir region, which was Muzaffarabad and elsewhere, and there was the Siachin region, which is parts of Ladakh. This made up the state of Jammu Kashmir. Of course, now even India has divided it into two different union territories. But going back to China's strategic agenda, their aim is to get Pakistan to take control of Siachin. Then Pakistan could defy the sanctity of the line of control that comes from Jammu area right via Uri, Kargil and onto NJ 9842. It is there that it ends as a demarcation, and beyond that is what India has occupied. Tragedy being that while India has occupied it, Indian officials, the civilian officials, are embarrassed to tell the world that we have occupied that, and unless you admit you have occupied that, how on earth can you get an agreement over it to say that this territory belongs to you? You know, there is an overbearing obsession in South Bloc in not trying to get into a debate on any territory linked with Jammu and Kashmir. Going back to Siachen Glacier, an average soldier serves about 90 days on those fierce heights of Saltoro Ridge. There is a base camp where I've been, and little beyond onto Saltoro Ridge. Conditions are harsh there, but on the ridge line, they're very harsh. Beyond 90 days, it is said you need to be moved out, otherwise you begin to lose your memory. Your appetite dwindles, your body strength begins to wear off, because all that fierce cold and those conditions have a bearing on the human body, which is not designed to live in those conditions. In the first several years that we were there were hundreds of lives that were lost to weather. Now we are down to 1 or 2 casualties in a year. And all those names are listed on the Siachin War Memorial at the base camp, where those famous words of Macaulay are inscribed, that how can man die better than facing fearful odds for the ashes of his fathers and the temples of his gods. It is worth a visit, but provided you get the permissions to go there. But more importantly, Siachen Glacier today provides India that strategic advantage which governments in India, unfortunately, have either been unwilling to admit or are unfamiliar with the advantages that come, so they don't want to pursue the subject. But essentially, you keep that glaciated control of that area which is glaciated. I am told it can give you water up till 100 million cubic CCS, and most importantly, it keeps Pakistan and China bearing down on you, but unable to take control of it because of the sheer determination of the Indian soldiers that have held on to it for nearly 40 years now. And the longest running air operation in the history of warfare has been enacted and is being implemented in the Siachin area, with the Indian Air Force and their helicopters and the Army's helicopters going continuously to provide support, foodstuff, logistic items, even letters to soldiers posted on those fierce heights, to keep their morale up, to keep them telling that the army in particular and the country in general cares. The Siachen Glacier is a remarkable story of the Indian Army's determination to hold on to every piece of territory that it can in the interest of India's security and sovereignty, and it remains a big rebuff to the Pakistanis whenever they have tried to take over the Siachen Glacier. In fact, I had asked General Musharraf that why did you do the Kargil operations when Kargil was part of the demarcated and agreed line of control? And his response was, why did you do Siachin on us? Because Musharraf suffered humiliation and was almost sacked for not being able to push out the Indian troops from Siachin. My counter to him was, Kargil lay on the demarcated and agreed and signed maps of India and Pakistan's territories as part of line of control. Siachin was not on the demarcated territory, and therefore it was no man's land, and whoever captures it has the right to keep it. India has thus captured it. After fierce battles, over 1,000 lives have been lost, but it has not stopped from the soldiers going there. And remember, every man who goes to serve on the Siachen Glacier, and at any given time, there are 3,000 plus soldiers in the general area. And the myth that Pakistan has weaved that will bleed India of resources, it doesn't really pinch us of the kind of money it takes compared to the budget we have. But every man who goes to serve on Siachin is a volunteer. And every man who serves there, decorated or not, is a hero.